Welcome back to KSTV. Kentucky football is one step closer to naming a starting quarterback. While he's still keeping his cards close, Mark Stoops did confirm that they've narrowed the competition down to 2 quarterbacks, and they are now splitting reps in practice.
We'll keep that in-house here for a little bit. A starter has not been named, but we're getting an order.
Have you narrowed to 2?
Well, yes. There's 2 guys that are still in the race, and we'll see where that shakes out. I think it's going to be no surprise, but both of those guys deserve to play and will play.
Offensive coordinator Neil Brown confirmed that they have narrowed the competition down to the 2 quarterbacks, but just like Coach Stoops, he would not name which 2 players are still in the running. Brown said if neither quarterback steps up after getting more reps in practice, they may go to a situation where they use both quarterbacks in the game for quite a while.
We're down to 2. Not gonna really discuss who those 2 are until he does. But I think we have to get our reps focused in, and we gave 2 guys the majority of the reps today, and we'll continue with that. I think if one of them jumps up and takes it, then that'll be a guy. If not, then we'll get used to playing with 2.
The other players on the team say they don't care who's behind center. They just take the handoff, catch the pass, or block the defender. Senior running back Raymond Sanders said he's feeling more and more comfortable in the new offensive system.
I do feel perfectly fit for it. I like catching the ball out the backfield. I love, running it from the gun and, the different things that it does with the motions and being that wide out and all those different things. I love, how I've been using it. So I think it fits me well, and I think that it's going to help me have a big year.
While the players are becoming more comfortable in the system, Neil Brown does not want his players looking too far ahead, not even a week and a half ahead to the Western Kentucky game. He just wants them to think about the day-to-day goals of improving.
It's kind of a process. Right now, we've not said one word about Western, and I don't know exactly when we will, because today we had to be a lot better than we were on Saturday. Okay, when we come back later on today, the mistakes we made in those situations, we've got to get better at those. I don't really want them thinking about, hey, we play Western in, 12 days now? I really don't want them thinking about that. I got to start thinking about it. The coaches got to start thinking about it, but I really want those focused on next. And we talk about a next attitude. All right, they've got a meeting after this. And after that meeting, they've got a jog through. And then after that, they got to think about practice the next day. So that's the kind of attitude I want those guys to have.
There's been a changing in the tone, Perrin. We saw it start on Friday. Mark Stoops very frustrated. Over the weekend, a little more encouraged, but the reality is coming. And I think the coaches are starting to understand what they have to work with. Big question is the quarterbacks. Ultimately may not be the most important because of some questions on the offensive line, but when you look at that competition, the possibility they may not name a starter, they may play 2 quarterbacks. What do you think that means for the Kentucky offense if they go with 2 guys out there?
Well, it makes a lot of sense if nobody's stepped up and obviously snatched the job. Obviously, they don't have a lot of guys returning on the offensive line, so my logical thinking tells me it's going to be Jalen Whitlow. But right. Then, you got a lot of guys. Max Smith has great accuracy. Patrick Tolles has a lot of potential. There's so many things that factor into this, and we don't really know what's going to happen. So, right now it's kind of a wait-and-see type deal.
It looks like, there's an old saying in football, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you're going to play 2 quarterbacks because you don't have one good one.
Yes.
The problem is, and I think this was worst case scenario for that quarterback position coming into the camp, is no one has seized the job. It doesn't matter who it is, but you want to determine the job, whether it's today, whether it's last week, next week, because somebody says, this is my job, he's not taking it, I'm going to perform. Every day we've heard they've had good spurts, they've had bad drives, there's some lack of focus, struggling. Long term, this was kind of viewed as not a strength relative to UK's team, as having guys that are experienced. Long term, how concerned are you that this issue may continue throughout the entire season?
It's a changeover year right now. So right now you gotta take what you have, you kind of got to recycle it and put out a better product, pretty much. So that's what they're trying to do. I don't know how they fix this right now. I think the best way to do is to throw people off with the 2 quarterback system. Max Smith, he can throw a great spiral. And then I think it's going to be Jalen Whitlow because of his ability to scramble. But the question is, can he be accurate on the run and throw?
And we've seen him a couple of times in practice, and he looks better, and which is, of course, going to be the case as a guy gets experience and gets to play, but not at that level. They don't have the receivers yet. The running backs are pretty good, but just not at that point where this offense can be a powerhouse offense going into the SEC. And to me, if you don't have somebody take that job, and this goes all season long back and forth, as we've seen at times for the last 2 or 3 seasons, then it becomes a problem. You can't find consistency, but this is an evaluation year, right? I mean, this is what you're trying to figure out year long, who you can count on.
I mean, I totally agree with you 110%. You know, I kind of feel bad for all three of those guys because, you know, not everybody else in the SEC is dealing with the fact that they had wide receiver tryouts and throwing the guys that aren't at the caliber at other schools as they are at Kentucky. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this all works out.
Can you throw a football?
Yeah, but I can't run right now.
That's right.
I can't run for a while. So.